Does your fear of being creepy stop you from taking any action in your dating life at all? I'm dating coach Hayley Quinn, and my goal is to help to keep you motivated and help you meeting the people that you really deserve. If currently you're holding yourself back from sending that all-important first message, or even just letting someone know that you like them because you're afraid it's going to be misconstrued as creepy, then I'm here today to give you 4 signs of what is and isn't creepy behavior, so that hopefully you can free yourself up to go ahead and take the action that you need in your dating life. Remember that the idea of expressing our intent, like that we'd like to get to know someone, or even potentially that we're attracted to someone, there isn't anything inherently negative about this. If there was, quite simply, nobody would have met in the past and we all wouldn't be sat here today. So it's not about never saying anything, it's about really learning how to do that in a way that is respectful. So here's your first sign of whether something is creepy or not creepy, and that is reciprocation. If you are there and you have sent 3 messages in a row to somebody on a dating app and they haven't responded to you, we're overstepping the creepy mark here. That's simply because you are continuing to express an interest in someone who hasn't made any level of effort to contribute to the interaction. This is kind of signaling to them that, hey, it doesn't matter what your personality is, what your behavior is like, whether you contribute anything to this interaction, because I'm attracted to you, you know what, I'm still keen to meet up. This really subcommunicates very negative things about you. It shows that you don't have high standards for dating and that in fact, you're perhaps just focused on how somebody looks. So remember, in order to not be creepy, if someone isn't reciprocating, if they're not making an effort, or if they're simply not responding, you need to exit that conversation. The second is this creepy question to ask yourself is, what's your social relationship? So obviously the closer our social relationship is, the more communication we'd expect to happen between 2 people. To put this really simply, if you're contacting a stranger through Instagram because you like their profile, it's going to be easier for your messages to be construed in the wrong way than if it's somebody that you know really well, who already understands your sense of humor and your intention. You also have to be aware of how other people will perceive their social relationship with you. So for instance, if you've met through a work setting and the other person considers you to be a colleague, it's going to feel very jarring for them, to put it lightly, if you then cross that line into more flirtatious communication without any indication from them that it's been reciprocated. Likewise, if you've only just met somebody briefly and immediately you're messaging them 20 times a day, the amount of messages and focus and attention you're giving them is out of step with the level of social relationship that you have. And again, that will give the person that feeling of, creepiness. It's because it feels that there's such a disbalance between how much effort and thought they're putting into the end of the social relationship and how much you are. So even if you're really keen on someone that you've just met, it can be worthwhile taking things at a slower pace, being slightly more cool and cautious, and of course, mirroring and matching their communication style. If you mirror and match the rate at which they message you and roughly how much they've written, you're going to help them to not feel overwhelmed by contacting you. The third question I want you to ask yourself on my creepy or not index is, what makes them worthy of this attention in your life? If you have a habit of putting people on a pedestal who you don't really know, this could be problematic. Perhaps you feel like you want to contact someone because they made a really great first impression on you, or you were initially really attracted to them. Now, both of these reasons might be fine excuses to send a first message. However, if that isn't responded to and you keep sending messages after that, the question that you have to come back to with yourself is, if this person isn't investing in me, if they aren't making an effort to get to know me too, why am I so keen to keep this connection alive with them? This could also be the case if you're messaging an ex. If they're no longer in a relationship with you, they're no longer making an effort to be with you, and yet you're continuing to interact with them as if they were, it's almost like you haven't taken the feedback loop from the situation that this person has stepped out of your life. So if someone isn't being responsive, they're not reciprocating, what this really comes back to is you developing higher standards for yourself in terms of how you expect people to engage with you. Someone can be as smart, as funny, and as attractive as they like, but if they're not making the effort to connect with you too, leave it. Now, if self-esteem is something you struggle with in the area of dating and you want to develop a high confidence mindset for your dating life, you can enroll in my free online training just by clicking the link below this video. Okay, so the fourth creepy or not question I want you to ask yourself is, have you commented on something physical or are you flirting out of context? So flirting out of context is taking basically a relatively normal conversation and trying to inject some flirtation into it. Now, I can understand why you may think that's a good thing to do. You may feel like, oh gosh, if I don't say something flirtatious now, this person is never going to see me as anything other than a friend. However, if you misjudge this and you take things too far, it's actually going to feel really jarring for a person. On top of them feeling perhaps a little bit objectified and really uncomfortable with having a physical or a flirtatious comment coming their way when they haven't expected it, what this inadvertently communicates about you is that you haven't correctly assessed the social relationship. You've got it totally in the wrong ballpark. And because of that, that's going to really ding their attraction to you and, yes, make you come across as creepy. So really, when it comes to being creepy or not, remember there's nothing wrong with expressing an intention that you'd like to get to know someone. However, before you proceed further, please make sure that they're reciprocating, that it's someone that shows that if you don't already have a social relationship, that they're willing to create that with you, that you don't just give them a free pass into your life based on their looks, but they also have to show up as a good person to you as well. And finally, that you don't flirt with somebody out of context in a way that's going to make them feel uncomfortable. Ultimately, this comes down to you developing really great standards for yourself as a person when it comes to dating. So remember, no free pass just because they're attractive. Instead, always seek to develop those relationships with people who not only tick the attractive box, but also show an equal level of willingness to get to know you too.